Welcome to the Dr. Nikki Starr Show, a podcast to support you in your spiritual awakening and personal development. As a spiritual teacher, healer, and intuitive coach, my intention is to empower you to live your ultimate potential and your ultimate life. As a former medical doctor and mystic, my role is to bridge the gap between science and spirituality to support you in understanding more of your multidimensional aspects. I share on a diverse range of topics, and it's all to support your greatest becoming. My mission is to continue reaching millions of people for the healing and awakening of humankind for the creation of the new earth. Thank you for being here. Hello, everyone. Welcome to another episode of the Dr. Nikki Starr Show. I'm your host, Dr. Nikki Starr, and today I want to talk to you about detoxing. So at the time of this filming, we are in spring. We just crossed the spring threshold. And it's very fascinating how the seasons and life and nature show us what we're meant to do. When we live in cycle with the earth, the stars, the moon, the sun, the seasons, this is when we really can live our ultimate potential. It's like everything is set up for us to win. So we never want to push against the grain. We want to always ride the wave of, okay, what's in season? What is for my highest and best good right now? And spring very much is for detoxing. And we know this because of all of the plants that are growing at this time. For example, dandelion is not a weed. It's a medicine. It's a detoxifying plant. And it's so great to detoxify our liver and to detoxify us in every way. And in the spring, it's so abundant. It's not really abundant in the winter, right? And same thing, not so much in the autumn either, but in the spring and summer, it's all around. So that's nature saying, hey, here you go. I'm giving you some medicine. Also, celery is in season, all the greens, right? After the winter, all the greens start coming out. And when we think of green juices, that's such a great way to detoxify the body. And I'm going to share a bit about why we want to detox from a spiritual perspective today, as well as some ways we can do that. And then the bonus content, I'm going to share with you my favorite resources and who are my go-to people and things for detoxing. So first and foremost, as you know, we're multidimensional. I also love to coach my clients and mentor clients in mind, body, and spirit. I did go to medical school for a reason, and though most of my work is focused on supporting you in living your ultimate life, I do that in every way. So that includes health. Even though I'm not at the forefront advertising myself as a health coach, that's foundational, because when our body is functioning at its highest level, I tend to attract people that are already healthy. And maybe there's some fatigue or things they can enhance, or maybe some allergies. But for the most part, I tend to attract people who are healthy because a lot of my brand is beyond health. So it's a given that we want to be healthy. This is why I left Western medicine, because it was really a sick model. And it was a sick system. And it was about keeping people sick by giving them prescriptions and medications. And I'm not about that. I'm about, let's find the root cause of whatever is the disease. Oftentimes there's an energetic or a metaphysical reason why it's happening. I'm not a fan of, let's just put this person on prescription medication and then that's it, right? So my model is very different, and the way I coach clients is very different. So it's a given. We must achieve optimal, ultimate health for us to live our ultimate potential. Our body vessel is the place that our spirit incarnates. So if it is sick, in dis-ease, it usually has energy blockages. And if it has blockages, your spirit can't incarnate fully into your body.
So as part of your ascension process, not only must you do energetic purification, which have I talked about that in one of the podcast episodes? I'm not sure, but for example, my Ascension code Purify, my rituality course has tons of rituals for energetic purification. My nutrition course talks a bit more about the physical purification process, and that's also what this podcast episode is about, where regularly, definitely annually, you want to do cleansing for your physical body. So there's ways that we can do daily cleansing. There's ways we can do quarterly cleansing. So I tend to do quarterly cleansing. I really like to do a water fast, meaning just drink water for 3 days, at least once a quarter, which is basically the change of every season. When we do water fasting as a form of detox, it gives the digestive system, think of all the organs in your belly, and they need time to rest. So when we do a water fast, for example, now this is like the extreme. You can also do a juice fast. There are so many different types of cleanses and detoxes that you can do. And I invite you to go and look, there's like the master cleanse, and I never did that one. So I don't like to prescribe anything I usually haven't done myself. But personally, I tend to be quite a spiritual warrior. So I like to just go straight to what I know works the best. And when I have done water fasts, I have healed things that were happening in my body. A few years ago, I was suffering from random skin condition. Like I would have like all this flakiness on my face, like these patches, like almost like eczema patches on my face, and I couldn't figure it out. I believe it was parasites looking back. And in the next episode, I'm going to talk about parasite cleansing specifically. But today I want to talk about detoxing as a whole. But why it matters that I share it in this episode, though, is just by doing the water fast, the days that I did the water fast, literally all my skin stuff went away. So it is shown that when we do water fasting as a form of detox, we can heal the body very quickly because water fasting increases stem cells and it allows the body to flush out all the crap that might be inside. And how we can do that on a daily basis, for example, is to not eat food after 6 or 8 p.m. I like to use the rule pretty much of the sun, like especially after the sun goes down, don't eat solid foods anymore. Just if you want something, have some tea, have some water, but nothing that the body really needs to digest. Now in summer months, it could be harder because the sunlight is out for a longer period of time. So I know living in Spain, people are eating at like 10 o'clock at night and it's a social thing. So of course, live. And when I'm home, I like to follow that rule better. Or if it's the weekend, okay, but like during the week, or if you have some sort of schedule, my advice is if you could be so disciplined not to eat after 6 p.m., and then, okay, fine, if you can't do 6 p.m., then not after 8 p.m. Because what happens is by not eating solid foods, you create a window of intermittent fasting where then the digestive system can literally flush itself out and cleanse itself out. If you're eating all the time, all throughout the day, and there are different schools of health that talk about intermittent fasting, and that's a form of detoxing. Now, if you suffer from adrenal fatigue or any kind of tiredness, I don't recommend long periods of fasting from the morning time. It's better that you do it at the end of the day. So you basically eat all your food from when you wake up all the way through to 6 p.m. So you could still eat 3 meals within that time or as many as you'd like, but get all your food, all your nutrition in, and then after 6, you don't have to. If you are getting enough proteins and fats, you're not going to feel hungry to want to eat later. So if you find that you're like really hungry, you're hungry a lot, you may want to check your protein and your fat intake because that usually is going to signal us like, I'm hungry, I need more nutrients, but it's because you need a specific type of nutrient. So detoxing all year long is best done through intermittent fasting and not eating after 6 or 8 p.m. if possible, because this is already when the digestive system starts to detox itself naturally. So if you look at Chinese medicine, it can tell you even the hours, right? Like at 3 a.m., your liver is detoxing. So at every certain time period, one of your organ systems is detoxing. That's why it's not healthy to go to bed really late, like after midnight. You really want to be laying horizontal by 10, the most, like the latest. But I believe it's already at like 8 p.m. Your digestive system is starting to go through its cleaning process. You can even think of it, it's like a automatic dishwasher setting. But instead of a dishwasher, it's an organ washer setting. And so if there's food in your digestive tract, it's like, oops, skip cycle. We can't clean because we need to digest this food. So that's daily detoxing. And then, of course, there's so many beautiful herbs that you can use. So things like milk thistle for the liver. I talked about using dandelion. And so based on what you need, there's different things you can use for detoxing. But overall, taking supplementation can also support you in your detoxification process, especially if it's the time that you want to do the detox. So as I mentioned already, you can do quarterly detox, which I like to do. And for me, I just find it's the easiest to do the water fast. Sometimes people just can't deal with the hunger. But if you just drink the water every time you feel hungry and you stay out of the kitchen and you're more in a meditative space, like obviously during those days you don't go to the gym. So if you use less fuel, you'll be less hungry. So you never want to do a 3-day fast if you need to be out and about. It's 3 days where you know you can just be at home, relaxing. You can get work done and you can do things, but you want to minimize your energy output. Walking in nature is still great because we receive mana and prana from the earth and from the air and from the elements. So quarterly, you'll want to do some type of detoxing. And if you don't want to do water, for example, you can easily do a juice fast. And in the winter months, you always want to pair it with like broth. So like bone broth, like you can do a bone broth fast. And the reason why is because it puts a lot of stress on your spleen if you do only cold beverages in the winter. So you want to make sure you're having broth or bone broth or things like this if you're going to do some kind of liquid cleanse. Remember, because if you're just doing liquid, it gives the digestive tract time to clear out. So it's not busy digesting your food. And then you want to do at least one bigger detox in the spring. And that's a really good time to do a liver gallbladder cleanse. You know, your liver is your natural detoxifier in the body. So anytime a toxin comes into your body, the liver's the one to be like, all right, it's the liver and the kidneys. So you may want to do both a liver and a kidney detox. You know, it depends on who you are, what you've been doing. You know, if you do take prescription medication, there's a lot of toxins in that. So you'll want to be mindful. There's also types of detoxes we want to do, such as heavy metal, especially if you eat a lot of fish. I never recommend eating farm-raised fish. It's full, even more than the ocean, full of toxins. So unfortunately, some of our food supply is contaminated, like a lot of pesticides and all of that. So, you know, and also if you ever got a vaccine, full of heavy metals. So we always want to, every now and then, especially if you can get tested, there's many different ways you can test. You can even do muscle testing to see how your levels are with toxins and different types of toxins. And sometimes it's toxins from the environment. Sometimes it's toxins from like furniture, like formaldehyde in furniture. So there's a lot of different toxins in the environment, unfortunately. And so as we go through our spiritual awakening path, and I talk about this in my nutrition course, I share like, even makeup. Makeup has tons of heavy metals in it. So the more that you switch to organic, non-toxic products, the easier time your body has. But also just like walking out in nature, if someone's like burning something and then like the plastic or whatever is like in the air. So there's all ways that we can get toxins in the body. So we need to regularly, just like you clean your house, just like you brush your teeth. And I talk about energy hygiene all the time. And I'm kind of putting my doctor hat on today, but the thing is that most doctors don't even tell you about this. This is more, I feel, holistic living, people that are living more of a spiritual path, because we know that our ascension, transformation, healing, reawakening process is supported by the purification of our body. So as your energy goes through an upgrade, you're going to want to upgrade your physical system as well. So another way, it's coming to my mind to share, so I will. I've never used them, but I know that a lot of people do like coffee enemas. That's a way to really unblock the liver channels. And then colonics. So if you are going to do, which I have done, especially when I've done liver and gallbladder cleanses, to do a colonic. And what it does is colonics, it's basically where you get a cleaning of your whole GI tract, your whole gastrointestinal system. Well, basically from like the duodenum, so the space after the stomach, all through the different intestines. So it's basically of the intestines. And what it can do is it can help anywhere that maybe there's stuck feces, right? Because when you go to the bathroom, number two, when you defecate, you're clearing toxins through that channel. Sometimes, depending on your motility, depending on your bowel movements, you may need help just to kind of get a good deep cleaning. Sometimes in the recesses of the corners of the bowels, or sometimes, because it's so that there's more surface area, they're rolled up, and there's like a lot of different rugae and there's holes and things, right? And so it can help you to kind of clean things out. And sometimes even through colonics, people have discovered they have parasites, for example. So I don't necessarily recommend doing either an enema or colonic all the time. You don't want your system to become dependent, because then you can lose your motility ability. But every now and then, for a deeper cleaning, it could be really supportive, especially if you're doing a detox. Because what happens during a detox too is literally all the toxins get released from your body, and you need help sometimes to clear them out. And that's also why you can use things like binders, things like activated charcoal, diatomaceous earth. And I'm going to talk more about their function in parasite cleansing in the next episode. And again, I want to close this episode really focusing on why, even from a spiritual perspective, and also a performance enhancement perspective, we want to do detoxing regularly. So through detoxing, we also clear out anything that causes mind fog. So a lot of times when people are like, oh, mind fog, that could be because of toxins in your system. You're not detoxifying good enough. And so then all of these toxins flow around in your blood, they cross the blood-brain barrier, and you feel foggy. So for you to feel focused, clear, detoxing is the way to do that. So then your performance enhances, because you also minimize fatigue. Because if your organ systems are functioning at their highest level, if your metabolism is functioning at its highest level, then you perform even better. You sleep well, you wake up energized, and voila, like life is so much easier. From a spiritual perspective, as you are going through spiritual awakening, your consciousness is expanding, your physical body needs to upgrade too. What I have observed that as we're going through our spiritual awakening process, we're becoming less dense. As you clear out densities in your energy field, in your mind, in your emotional field, you want to upgrade the body as well. and you help the physical body purge through detoxing. So I probably should have mentioned this at the beginning of the episode, why it's so important to detox. But essentially, you do it for performance enhancement. You do it for your spiritual awakening. You do it for your ascension process, because as we move it from 3D to 5D reality into the new earth, we're becoming more crystalline. And we even see this, like people are more luminous and radiant. That radiance can only come from a healthy, clean body. So when you see people who are so bright and so shiny, it's like an energy. It's also because the physical body is bright and shining because we're eating cleaner. And that's how every day you can support yourself to not have to detox as much, is eat clean. Minimize sugar. Sugar is terrible for the body. Minimize any form of pesticides. So that's why, because that's all toxins. So buy as organic as possible. Regularly, you can have a smoothie of sorts. And in the smoothie, you can have things like dandelion. You can have all kinds of, wild blueberries. You can have all types of detoxifiers, like certain types of algae, like spirulina or chlorella, for example. So there's a lot of different things that you can do regularly to help your detox process. I'm going to talk a little bit more about this in the bonus. And the more we are conscious, and similarly, if you do eat meat, that you're getting it from a good source, because when it's pumped with antibiotics and all of the other stuff, and that's not good. But if it's raised humanely and it's fed good food, then it's going to be better if it's hormone-free, antibiotic-free. And like I said, never eat farm-raised fish. If you're going to, go catch it yourself or go and get wild fish. You'll spend more money, but in the long term, can you even put a price on your health? And similarly, even anything else that you eat, make sure it's the best source. It's sourced in the best way. It's grown in the best way. Wash it. Drink water that is good. Do not drink tap water. That's another way to support you in minimizing toxins. They have found that, which I'm sure you know, that tap water has birth control in it. It has prescription medications in it. It's been treated with fluoride and chlorine. And now that RFK Jr. is in office, some, especially in the US, some cities are now removing fluoride and excess toxins that are not needed in water in terms of treating it. So wherever you can get spring water, that's ideal. And just make sure that it's spring water, because any other kind of water is really just tap water or created water in a lab. And we really want water the way nature intended it. And so I bring us to our last point, which is drinking a good amount of water every day is going to support you in detoxing regularly, because that's what's needed to pass urine, which is one way you detox. Also, if you sweat, through your lymphatic system, being hydrated helps all of that stuff move. It helps it move through the blood. And then similarly, the more hydrated you are, you won't be constipated. So passing regular bowel movements is how you're going to also detoxify. So I invite you to tune into the bonus episode where I'm going to share some more resources that I love and some more tips for detoxing. And I also invite you inside of my Ultimate Nutrition course. This is really how you can learn to eat clean so that you can minimize detoxification. And I really guide eating not as a one size fit all. It's more informational, and I really guide based on intuitive eating. And I believe the Ultimate Nutrition course is like 18 modules. So it's definitely full of information. There's so much there for you. You can find the link in the comment section. So thank you so much for tuning in, and I'll see you inside the bonus content. Big kiss. Bye for now.
Thank you for tuning in to another episode of the Dr. Nikki Starr Show. Please like this podcast and share it with anyone you feel would benefit. Subscribe to the podcast to receive bonus content. And remember, every Monday, the video version goes live on my YouTube channel. Thank you so much for being on the Ascension path with me and for doing this great work.